and I'm ripping off Good Morning Vietnam. Well, I'm listening, I'm talking at the same time. You are listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, revolution.radio. I just like to do that, where if anyone's following my voice and the cadence and the melody, I seem to be running and then tripping at the end. Big thank you to Tony and the gang for the Wi-Files for the last 2 hours. And being Revolution Radio, we are 100% listener supported. And if I go to a bit of information here. This month we are up to $600, which is about $18,000 Australian, because economies and things. Our monthly goal is 2,000, so we're gone past quarter of percent, or quarter of our thing, and so 25%, and it's not even the first week. Day 5 of February, and if who's counting? Well, everyone that uses a calendar, really, because 5 is after 4, and that's how it works. So if we keep going with this, we'll reach our goal just before day 29, because it's a leap year. We have an extra day so the planet can catch up on something, because, nature, it's wacky. So, donate what you can. We are listener supported. My name is Monty Dean. This is Planet Collingwood Open Roundtable. I have started to record these little shows and put them on YouTube, and I get 4 people watching. But that's 4 more than you. Haha, yeah. Sorry, I shouldn't be rude or act like a child, mainly because I'm just doing an impression of Nancy Pelosi. Because there was the State of the Union in the last night or this morning or wherever you are, and they acted like 9-year-olds. I have been joined by John Z, our correspondent from the Jersey Shore. That's the shore of the New Jersey. Yeah, not the show. I just want to make sure. Sure, I'm sure that. Anyway, John, how are you?
Well, I'm okay, I suppose. I mean, I'm even better after you have taught me that 4 comes after 5, but before 3 and 1.
But
Much appreciated.
Oh well, yeah. It's a kaleidoscope of reality here at Planet Collingwood, where anything is possible, but nothing is real.
The things that Europeans and you Commonwealthers can teach us Americans just boggles the mind.
Oh, you mean the metric system? Well, yes. Which I find interesting because, United Statians, or American US people.
Old freedom units, get it right.
You love your weaponry and you love the imperial system, and yet you have a 9mm gun. I find it amusing.
It's odd.
Yeah.
Imperial stormtroopers, imperial units, imperialism.
I know, yeah. Star Wars would be totally different if it was the metric stormtroopers. Right, everyone, a meter apart and slowly walk towards. Okay, and that's. I like that. Oh God, I should write that down. Luckily, I'm recording everything, and then sharing it with everyone else.
I actually, you know what? This brings into things into question, Monty. I mean, can you imagine a metric version of an Ewok?
Well, it'll be a meter high, not 3 feet. So. Well, I think they'll be slightly taller. So this is fascinating. Yeah, Jabba the Hutt wouldn't weigh 2 ton. He would weigh 3.5 ton.
3.5 Volkswagen Beetles.
Yeah. Hitler's Revenge. Yes. Also, in the news, personally, I've been doing what we call the NICE program, which is the New Enterprise Incentive Scheme, which is NICE. It's French for nice. And I'm starting up my own business, and the government's actually helping me out for 9 months, which I find ironic. So for 9 months, I have to toe the line. And after that, hey, I'm all at it. But I'm doing a podcast and a YouTube channel. And I've realized...
Hey, you're triggering my PTSD. Toe the line.
I'm not getting paid yet. I will when I get paid. in my Australian fiat dollars,
That's
which I think, yeah, without the exchange rate, I think it's about 70 cents. So yeah, I can't remember how it works, but it for one American dollar, it's 70 cents. So if you have 70 cents US, you have one Australian dollar. So everyone listening, come visit. How about we need the tourism dollars because we nearly burnt down.
Think of the kangaroos. Think of the dingoes.
Think of the koalas.
Think of the marsupials.
Oh yes, this just in. There is a new counting expert going to Iowa for the caucus for the primaries. We go to him live now. So how will you help out with the problems here in Iowa? I will count. One satanic pedophile. Two satanic pedophiles. Joe Biden, stop sniffing me, you strange man. Yeah. I saw that on a meme. And it's like, yeah, if you need something counted, you get the count. One. I didn't see it, but I heard about because Sesame Street's been going longer, like 50 years or something ridiculous. It's entrenched. It's like a tick.
Still going?
Yeah, it's still going.
So wait. Is it confirmed that Bert and Ernie are gay?
No, it's confirmed that they're not. No, someone said they might be gay, and of course the writer is from the homosexual persuasion. Nothing wrong with that. It's just when you start virtue signaling on a national TV show,
So
the creator.
Nobody is confirmed gay in Sesame Street.
Not yet. I'm sure they'll probably invent. They'll do the right thing and invent one because they've invented a trans character.
They have.
Yeah, they're puppets.
Oh, okay. They might as well go gay at that point. I mean,
Yeah, well, I mean, someone's hand somewhere.
I think that's worse. Jeez.
But Frank Oz, because Bert and Ernie were created by Frank Oz and Jim Henson. Jim Henson has passed on, and one conspiracy. Now, this is a theory because it can't be actually corroborated. Is because of the Dark Crystal, the Skeksis are very like the Archons, and so Team Dark got rid of him, or he just died. Options. But
hey, man, I can say the same thing about that dude that wrote the He-Man comics. He just choked on a chicken bone and died.
Yeah, but yeah, well, yeah.
Or man, it was Skeletor. He chucked his his knuckle bone in there and his chicken.
That works, but the real question is, how does Skeletor's jaw stay in place? But anyway, we're diverging. Frank Oz has actually said, no, they're not gay because he created the characters. And it doesn't matter what sexual. Why can't two men have a platonic relationship and live together? Why does everything have to go sexual?
I think they did that in 2.5 Men, but I can't tell if that was supposed to be a straight or a gay show.
Well, knowing Charlie Sheen, I'm sure he tried. I'm not sure about the character, but backstage, I'm sure he would have done something because he's done a lot of things. He's a walking petri dish, I think now. He's done wonders for the Truther movement because he had a letter for President Obama about 9/11, and then
that was great. That whole story of. Yeah, I think he did a complete interview on it or something.
Yeah, and about 2 years later, after that, he started going psycho on drugs and threatened to kill some hoes, or adult stars there. Yeah, adult performers. Yes. Hose be mad. No, he was mad at hose. So it's total reverse there. So. There's a cancer culture. It's strange how cancer culture, Kevin, who's the black chap, who's the comedian, Kevin Hart. Thank you, because I've got Kevin Arnold stuck in my head. Like, what?
I was thinking Kevin Bacon, but only because that's like a really memorable name. You can't forget his name if you know Bacon and you ever met anyone like Kevin, or even if you just seen like the movie Home Alone, Kevin McAllister. Like you can't forget that name ever. It's
Yeah,
impossible.
yeah, well, that is true, and also those movies are basically about, or is it child protectors, child services, protection services, where those parents like they left him behind twice or three times. Like, what, those parents are terrible in those movies. Lucky he's a genius and he can survive. And interesting enough,
I,
in Canada, they removed the scene of Donald Trump from the cameo in the second one or something when they go to New
oh
York.
wow.
Oh yeah, that's because this is the reality we live in, where the Speaker of the House is like, I don't like you, so I'm just going to tear up my speech behind you
There
on
was.
national I know that's a very pathetic imitation of Nancy Pelosi. I should have it like about six
Well,
shots of
listen,
tequila
I
first.
don't know. I don't know if you, because all right, listen. Here's the things you'd have to mimic. You'd have to mimic being freaking absolutely hammered, having some sort of lisp, and being retarded.
Yeah, and being 196 and just try and keep the teeth in.
Well, that's what I
So
was gonna say. So one of the things I found hilarious, this came out not too long ago too. There was some sort of science channel that was breaking down the injuries in Home Alone, and especially the
yeah,
second one. I mean, the first one, like someone got shot, another person got their hand burned or something like that, or their head set on fire. I forget which. But anyway,
yeah,
there's one scene in the first one and a scene in the second one. In the first one, the guy pulls like a cord, and it's an iron, and it just comes down and just nails him in the head. And the the analysis was that basically your head would have been gone, and it would have the iron would have taken its place. And there's another one in the second one where he's throwing bricks off of like 3 or 4 story building or something. And he's just nailing the guy in the head in the same spot. And sure enough, regardless, you'd be dead if that happened.
yeah.
Sure enough, someone did a reaction video, and somewhere out there's some fruitcake yelling about how this movie came out in the 90s as a comedy, as a kids movie. It's completely unrealistic. It's meant to be funny. It's comedy. It's
Yeah.
meant to be unrealistic. Yet it's some fruitcake bitching about this. Oh my God! I can't believe they're making satire out of this man getting concussion over and over.
Yeah. Welcome. Yeah, I
I'm
coined a
like,
new term.
I
Yeah.
can't, I can't anymore. I can't. What happened?
Oh, no, careful, you sound like a millennial. I can't even right now. I'm literally
No,
shaking.
like that's how bad it is. Like
I know.
it's just so crazy
Yeah.
to think that like we've gone from the era of people like coming back from Vietnam, and there's some messed up stuff over there,
Hmm.
and now we have 18-year-olds, 20-year-olds that can't go through Air Force basic training, wind up quitting and making making an entire YouTube career out of bitching about what was done wrong and how they served with honor and what happened to them was not honorable, and sexual harassment and like all this stuff that is lies, bullcrap. It's just
Hmm.
crazy to watch. It really
Yeah,
is.
it started in like it can go back to about 12, 15. Yeah, that's going back. 2015.
Hmm.
Sorry, I'm just going a
12,
wee bit
15.
back.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, yeah. So around about noon. But it's we've seen this in the culture war. That's why Star Wars is knows everyone the Hollywood bubble where everyone is flaky and everyone's an ist or a phobe or the term Nazi has lost all its meaning. I'm sure the real Nazis in South Pole are going. We're not going over there yet. Apparently everyone is Nazi. Hans, let's go. Everyone's here. Anyway, we have two people that have joined us. I was enjoying our conversation, John. Haven't spoken to you for a while. We have been joined by Viking and Hijacker. Viking, how are you?
I'm doing good, Monty. How you doing, guys? I'm
Hey.
awake in here.
Oh, excellent. Because yeah, it is turning into a comedy, as you can see, with the whole political side of things. Now, Hijacker, have you been laughing or are you worried? You have more options to choose from, but what have you felt that's been going on in the last 24 hours?
Yeah, no, we got a combination of on the call oil and vinegar and water and gasoline mixed. Pretty good.
Yeah, no one smoke. just no one ever smoke. But yeah, it'd be interesting. The 4 points of the compass have come together. So because just before I came on to do the show, I was looking at Twitter, and everyone is basically pointing out how Nancy Pelosi was completely disrespectful of like. I did see someone do a meme of it. It's like Nancy Pelosi was so impressed by Donald Trump's speech that she teared up to the articles of impeachment.
Yeah, I didn't actually watch the speech. I don't because I know too much now, so I don't really watch that stuff anymore. But I did see that the tearing of the pages.
Yeah.
But anyways, the bigger thing is that it looks like this corona virus is the real deal from all the information I've been able to gather. The in Wuhan, how do you say the name of that Chinese city?
I'm not sure. Wuhan?
Yuan. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
the
Wuhan.
I
Yuan.
think it's a province.
No, it's a city. The province is Zhangdang or something. But anyways, the point is there's over 56 million throughout I think close to 40 cities now that have all been quarantined. It does look like it's got out of control, and people have been actually calling around, talking to the incinerators. Other words, the people who cremate the bodies, and they say they're running 24/7. They're not following any of the paperwork. They're picking bodies up off the street or going to people's homes and taking them. They're foregoing all the paperwork. They're foregoing, well, what is the cause of death? Let's do the test on the body to see what the person died. They're not even doing that, and they're just burning. And every incinerator in crematorium in that city is burning 24/7. And so now we're starting to suspect that this thing is really metastasized and is really spun out of control. And as I heard one bioweapons, he went into the army. This might be down your lane here, John Z. He was a bioweapons in the military at 18 years old. He had a choice between going to Vietnam or to get involved in bioweapons. And he did a show on Rents, and he went through what the U.S. military actually trains these guys. These guys were actually trained to exterminate even American populations. I mean, really incredible. But he called the coronavirus the basically the crown jewel of virus type weapons because of the way it incubates, the way you can have it for 10 to 14 days, other things that are actually involved in the mixing of it. And he says it's a real McCoy. So I don't know what we're looking at. Are we looking at the end? I mean, when you take a look at the markets, 500 billion going to the repo window now. That's what we're up to. Now, granted, it circulates over 30 to 60 days. The money circulates, short-term loan, that type of thing. But we are up to 500 billion that's circulating through, and the Chinese, in order to stop their bloodbath, they lost 8%. Think about this. They lost 8% of their market on Monday. And the only reason they didn't lose more is the Chinese dumped in, it was like 1.4 billion yuan, which comes to like 170 billion, $9 billion of our money. And they hit the circuit breakers. And then they called a bank holiday because of quote unquote the new year, and they just shut the markets down for the last couple of days. So, and then you couple that with this guy who is head of like Goldman Sachs at some big bank in Europe at Davos. They're sitting down for an interview, and this guy would be, it would be like a guy that was a CEO of a jean company, like Levi Jeans, and you're talking to him, and you say, "Well, what do you think the future of jeans is?" And he says, "Oh, it's all rotten. Nobody will be wearing jeans anymore." He basically said, the head of this financial institution, that cash by the end of this year will be trash. And he goes, "I know that's going to go all around the world because of my position." And they go, "Well, you're saying you're a guy who traffics in currencies and derivatives, and you're saying cash is going to be trash?" And they go, "Well, what do you think is actually going to be worth something then in this next year?" He says silver. He says silver and precious metals. And he did that in an unbelievable open public interview at Davos. And of course, shortly after that, this whole Corona thing broke out. So when you take a look at the markets, when you take a look at what the elite are doing, when you actually take a look at the virus and its impact, I don't know. Monty Dean, you got a lot of Chinese down there. Are you hearing about?
Not hearing about it, but I was about to mention that the death toll seems to be just in China, and it is fascinating. Let's not get worried about if it's real or not. Something is happening, and you've explained what the knock-on effect is, even if it's sort of it's not a super virus, but the Chinese they're ramping up the fear, and 8%. This is how fragile the markets are. 8% is a lot, apparently.
Right. That's the big thing, Monty. You actually hit on the big thing. It's not the virus. This is not the big one. This is not like Contagion. In fact, this guy got on Jason Goodman, and he did an interview, and he's an actual whistleblower. He's an insider, and he goes, and Jason Goodman was saying, well, what is the prognosis of what you think of what we're entering into, a kind of a new age? This 2020 is just like out of nowhere, and we're dealing with like what looks like to be like a bioweapon. And he goes, "Oh no, it's worse than that. It's not only a bioweapon, it's the first of a dozen." She says, "This is your new reality. After this one rolls, and however they decide to burn it out," which, by the way, they cancel flights everywhere. I mean, the airlines are really getting hit.
Of course.
So they stopped a lot. But this guy who was an insider, he goes, "No, after this one, it's going to be another one because it is the perfect weapon. It is the weapon to end cash money, to go to digital world currency. It is the weapon to keep what happened in Virginia, where 25,000 patriots all got together in their man gear, a small army. That won't happen anymore. Well, once people start getting a cough." And he says, "Well, so many levels of control. If it gets to the point to where all we have to do is for World Health Organization, to declare, they're right underneath it. But if they declare a global pandemic, that means what kicks in, and all these governments have signed off on it, is like protocols of like 25 things. And what it means for the United States, basically medical martial law."
Yeah, that's commonplace. Every country has that. Yeah, here's the real scary thing, dude. So, the guy whoever said, there's gonna be 12 more, there's gonna be a dozen more coming after, he's probably right. So, like, here's what's going on. At least, this is my opinion. I have no proof to the contrary, just like anyone else. But first off, I'm still like really fuzzy at how this freaking thing escaped, because you got to understand, any place that deals with this, and it sounds like the place it came from was definitely a lab equipped to deal with this crap. So you gotta understand, like, if you ever seen like a movie of like a super secret underground base, okay, it's basically a glass box of death, right? If anything gets out, automatic lockdown, things shut, no one gets in or out, okay? The only way you get in or out is like super duper admin access, or you blow a hole in the wall. And it's all like super thick glass too, and it's bulletproof, and it's shatterproof, and it's burnproof. So you gotta do a lot to break it. So okay.
Oh,
So
well, we know how it got
let's
out.
hold on. Hold on. Let me finish. Even if it broke, even if it got loose, if it broke containment in the lab, meaning that it was exposed to the air, even if that happened, okay? This is a isolated bunker from the rest of the world. It has its own everything. It has its own air and filter, water, everything. Okay, so nothing can get in or out. Now, when you're transporting this stuff, you have triple redundancy. Excuse me. You have triple redundancy when you move this type of crap. So, especially a bioweapon. It's not like a gas. It's not like chlorine gas or something or anything like that. It's a bioweapon. So generally, what you have on the outside, you have some sort of like pelican case. You know, if you ever seen the inside of one, it's, you know, molded rubber, foam. You know, very secure outer case. Very tough thing. Inside of that, you're going to have something that fits down into that molded foam. That'll be the secondary case, and it's pretty much a smaller pelican case, but on the inside it's metal. And on the inside of this metal, it also has usually some sort of compressed gas or some sort of gas to stabilize and cushion impact from stuff. And on the inside, where the actual biological material is held, it's held in like some kind of crazy like, so they come in like tubes, and they're pretty tough things. All right, you could literally throw one against the ground as hard as you can and it won't break. So even if someone dropped this from a forklift, to break the pelican case, to break the secondary case, go through the metal, decompress the compressed gas, and then break whatever was inside, it had to have been a train wreck or something else, like something really catastrophic.
I
And
got better
so,
one,
hold
John
on, hold
B.
on. So hold on. So my only conclusion is that there was incompetency on the highest level, where it was released on purpose. That's the only two realistic ways I saw this being released. But please tell me how this was released, how they're saying it was released.
So yeah, you're right. You hit on the one theory that this was actually on purpose released. That's the one theory. But the second theory, and I believe this one, and the only reason I believed it because I've lived a life of hell. I mean, I've had to scavenge, I've had to go flea market, I've had to get in a pickup truck and know how to make a living by going up and down back alleys or in cities, knowing where I can get metal, old block engines for scrap iron, where people were throwing things out, uh, you know, even where actually to get food, dumpster diving, some of these like Safeways and some of these big places. They've got you wouldn't believe the kind of food that at least they used to throw away. So when I heard this story, I said, that's it. So it turns out that um, uh, okay, so I lived a life of hell. You know, I've had to be part scavenger, right? Um, but in China, everybody scavenges, everybody. And so the
Yeah.
story is that when they packed up their trash or whatever, what happened was these really nice, cool gloves that these people use to do mess around with bioweapons and containment. I mean, they're really nice, heavy duty gloves. They can only use them like one time, then they got to throw them away. Somehow they made it into either a dump or some kind of way a scavenger found them. They weren't burnt up. Some, like you say, incompetence, some kind of protocol. Somebody said, oh, wow, look at all these really cool gloves. And then somebody took them and they took them to a fish market because they're perfect when you have to deal with cold water and fish. And so that's when they came up with a story that it came out of this fish market, this meat market, that a bat bit somebody or somebody ate a bat or a snake. But what really happened is Chinese scavengers got the bioweapons gloves, the really cool, thick gloves, which I would have picked up. I would have said, man, look at these things. You can sell them for like $10 each. And they made it into, and so that's the backstory. That's supposed to be the actual way that it actually did happen. So
that is highly plausible because even in the Western world, the medical waste is not disposed of properly because it costs too much. I know you work you know what a hospital is. Yeah, not Ewok. Well, you walk past. Anyway.
As much. Hold on.
Just having a coughing fit. So he's having a toke.
As much as I want to deny that it's bullcrap, I want to be honest. I still think it's bullcrap. It is plausible because it is human error. I still think it's bullcrap, but it is plausible.
It's got that ring of truth,
plausible. No, it doesn't ring true to me because, like I said, something like that's the equivalent of like a special forces thing. Like that's the people that work there.
Think about the Chinese culture, John Z. Think about the Chinese culture.
They're not dumb, dude.
Yeah, but that level of
really cool
lab.
Gloves.
But the level though of those type of like they're a category 4 or something because there's like 100 around the United States. But what I'm getting at is because it's so top secret, it would be sort of they wouldn't have like a screen door at the back where they just throw out garbage type thing. So
regardless, it is such a plausible thing because it does actually happen in places. It's so plausible that you can't take it off the table, even though I think it's still bullcrap.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of iffiness to the whole thing. If you go into inside,
I find it really interesting that Hijacker brought up somebody said this is going to be done 12 more times because essentially what they would be doing when they release this stuff, and now I use they very loosely. We don't even know if it was the Chinese that really did this. Don't know.
That's another puzzle. Yeah.
So anyway, regardless of all that, if you were to do these in succession, you would be looking for a couple of different things, and I understand I'm going to, basically explain biological warfare to you. But it goes something simply like this. When you're targeting stuff, this stuff was done back in the 30s and 40s is when we started messing around with it. And even back then, they could have selectively chosen any race on Earth with the degree of accuracy down to specifics like region and provenance to a degree. So if someone was releasing these things in succession to see what they would do out in the wild, they'd be testing incubation and infection rate. You would be testing to see what kind of side effects manifest, what the actual lethality rate is, and can it sustain itself, long enough in the body before it becomes ineffective. So, like, meaning can it spread it, however it's done, airborne, touch, whatever. And so then you would start getting into really specifics. Is this a general one size fits all type thing, or is this for specific methods of contact or specific regions, such like African Americans or Caucasians, um, Russians, whatever. It you start getting into these things, and so it'll be interesting to see. Since it originated in China, my guess is that it would be testing there. This is just my guess. I don't even know if even makes sense. But my guess would be to see, even if it can infect an Asian population, is it lethal to them? Or to see how lethal it is to the Asian population. Because you gotta remember stuff like this travels. So like once it gets onto a plane, once it makes contact with a communal area of significant size, like an airport, like I don't know, like a public bathhouse or like a restaurant, anything like that, it can go anywhere really quick. Within 12 hours, it could be in a different country. Within 24 hours, it could be in a different continent. So it's pretty interesting. So long story short, it'll be interesting to see if other things like this pop up in the future, where they targeted and where they go.
Yeah, you've got the problem with, if I may, Hijacker just for a sec, and then follow up. It also will mutate. That's what viruses do. They mutate as they move along through the people. It's fascinating from one perspective of the conspiracy world. Is like last year it was measles, and the year before that was Ebola, and the year before there seems to be one each time. But there's never been a massive outbreak. Now,
but the whooping cough made the rounds a couple years ago, and I haven't heard that since forever.
Yeah. Now, what I find interesting, it's China. If you want to hit high density, China's the place to go because of 1.2 billion people and the size of the east coast of the United States or something like that. Hijacker, go ahead.
Yeah, well, there's two other viruses now on deck. So we got the bird flu, N1H1 has popped up again, and then also in China, there's a swine flu. Also, another statistic is that it's like 97% of the people that have actually died have been of Asian descent. Very few other people, like in Germany, there's like this Chinese consultant came to Germany. It was a auto parts type deal. They were doing some kind of business contract, and so they had a little mini convention among this corporation. She came. She infected 13 people, I think, like a couple of Frenchmen, most of them German. But it only took them about a week. Once they got it, but they got over it like the flu. It didn't hit them like it hit the Asians. And then here's one more, and this statistic is really, really scary. This is the scary one. This is the one that makes me think, now I know why the markets are reacting. So right now, I think the actual kill rate, we're close to 500 officially. That's what they want to say officially. I think it's actually a lot more than that. I think it's in the thousands in the heart of China. But let's just go with the 500. So how many people have the Chinese actually said, according to their statistics, have people got the virus? They went through it. They stayed in the hospital. They finally got healed up, and they actually let them go. And it turns out only about 500. And so there are close to 90,000 hospital beds, open hospital beds. In other words, if you add up all the 28 hospitals or something in Yuan, China, just that one city, let's just take that one city. They got something like 100,000 hospital beds. Of course, you would with the population of 11 million. That is the population, which, by the way, once the government started talking about quarantine, 5 million of them took off, almost half the city. But anyways, so of the people that actually got healed and walked away, only about 500. So 500 get healed, 500 are dead, and all the rest of them are still laid up in hospital beds. Man, that's like really scary. I mean, you could be looking at a kill rate of 50%, which would be astronomical. End of the world stuff. Go ahead.
Yes, but there is, however, they have the numbers. So, I mean, in New York, it could be. See, we don't know exactly what's going on because the Chinese government's also trying to crack down. Like they're publicly stated, you can't tell the real numbers or you'll be locked into shame for eternity or something like that. They're doing what they do best, is trying to control the narrative.
In a stinking jail cell. They've already done it. Yeah.
On the flip side of that, though, have you seen footage? They built a hospital, a 1,700-bed hospital in 10 days or something like that. Mind you, there's enough of them. There's a lot of people going and gumption. So it is fascinating to see what's actually happening. It's be worth seeing how it is being affected outside of China, because the media and / government's slightly more trustworthy. I know I said that, dear listener, and it seems an odd thing to say. However, I think we've got 6 people. We haven't had anyone die here in Australia, but there's 6 cases or 12 cases. They're, as Hijacker said earlier, the planes are shutting down to try and contain it. And yeah, we unfortunately we have to wait and see. But it's interesting. There's footage of police going into apartments and a family or a group of people just waiting. So they started playing mahjong, the like Chinese dominoes, if that's the worst way of explaining it. Little tiles and stuff. It's a game. And one of the guys came in and just with a hammer started smashing up the table for whatever reason. So it's a lot of stress going on. And being the Chinese government, they like to control everything. And it seems to be that this is out of control. And that's why they're freaking out.
Well, not only that, if you get some of the footage that's actually getting out, you're always hearing. Now, some people want to say it's Chinese New Year, and that's why you hear all the popping and what sounds like fireworks, or actually it sounds like gunfire. But there's lots of footage in the distance. You can hear it. You can see there's footage where these 3 guys with assault weapons in full bio suits walking down the street in China. This guy's filming from like the 8th floor of this apartment building. And so there's also other really disturbing footage which would make you think, nah, they're not faking this. There's no way they can get like all of Beijing's subways and malls and streets to shut down. There's footage of a guy getting in his car. I guess it's his girlfriend, and she's taking footage, and they just start driving. And I mean, they drive and drive and drive. In fact, they put it on a time loop where it speeds up.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
No cars. Nobody.
It looks like a Hollywood movie.
Interesting you say speed loop. Like they have like the recording being played back, right? You know what I've seen before, which is pretty interesting? I've seen stuff be delayed, not just a day, not just a week, not just a month, but sometimes a year. Like, to give you an example of what I'm talking about, you say like event A happened on, let's just say 2019, right? And
John, can I just give a very short sentence, because a good example. Saddam Hussein was announced that he was captured in September, but the date trees were blooming, and that happens in March.
There you go. Yeah, you just explained it for me.
I just know that's the only example I know. So sorry to interject, but I thought that would be the easiest.
That's perfect. Yeah, go ahead.
And that's because John David Morton apparently was in Cairo, and when everyone saw that, because like, we got him, and they saw the footage, it was like, wow, that's
absolutely true.
Yeah, and it's like that's full of crap, and so everyone knew it was
absolutely true.
yeah, it was a total fake sort of thing. So it is interesting to see
Right.
what
Well,
is
some
actually
people want
going
to say
on,
that
and
this virus broke out and it actually started to break in September, and that the Chinese were able to keep it under wraps all the way up into about December 15th before it really broke. But there's just too much footage. There's too many people. There's too much passion in these people's. I mean, you're dealing with hundreds of different videos. You cannot have all of that and then have whole places where things ought to be bustling and you ought to see 100,000 people moving around in one block, especially in China, like Beijing. I think Beijing's got I think it's a super city of 60 million. You can't have the subway shut down and just nobody on the streets or in the malls. That's just not possible. Not so much. You could fake a couple. Yeah, you could get some actors, a doctor to cry, get somebody to shake on a little gurney, but you can't get like 40 people to do it, different settings. So
you also
there's
have
something
the
here.
army. Yeah, there's also the army and police enforcing, I guess, martial law as well. And I've seen somewhat like it may not be a killer coronal virus, but it could be something that affects motor functions because I've seen um, a video of a guy trying to resist the police or army were trying to put him into the back of an ambulance, but he was trying to get away, which I find a little bit fascinating. See, now it could be there is a virus and it can do damage, and the government's being shady and trying to take out dissidents as well, or something. Like some people say, a disaster is an opportunity that you shouldn't let go, or something. I should remember how to say that, but a disaster is a good opportunity to do to move forward, which is very sickening. But that's how.
Bring people together.
No, what it basically means, like the New World Order, is if anything happens naturally, they have contingency of using that disaster for their favor.
Oh, you don't say now there, laddie.
I do, and so yeah, well, do we trust the media? Because like social media is a bit better, but I'm sure the Chinese government's cracking down on that. So there is
Media,
especially the way. I know, but the media's been ramping up the fear as well. And if you've got the media fear in China, you also have seen people where, as Hijacker just said, you can't fake it that well and that many. Then you have the clamp down from the authorities on top of that.
Yeah, well, here's
it's a
one
perfect.
for you. So there's this big news organization that all they did was repeat a news article that came out of either Thailand or Vietnam. And what the news article was out of this particular newspaper, they said that the doctors in Thailand, I think it was Thailand, were successfully treating this coronavirus and healing people by using a cocktail of AIDS drugs. And it is well known that in this coronavirus, the reason why a lot of people think it's a bioweapon manufactured is because I don't know how viruses go, but the little squigglies or whatever, the signature of it, the genetic code, whatever, it does have some AIDS virus type of signatures in it. And so these doctors in Thailand actually used AIDS cocktail drugs because AIDS is healable now. AIDS is not like it was back in the 80s, which, by the way, was what killed my brother. He was a homosexual, and AIDS got him. But anyways, so this news organization put on Twitter and said, look, we think these doctors in Thailand have got this by using this cocktail. Twitter banned them. And then Twitter turned around and said that it was BuzzFeed that actually put the flag on this prominent news organization. I wish I could remember what it was. That actually was the one that banned them. So why would Twitter do that? Like within 30 minutes of a major news organization, just repeating what another newspaper article said.
It's
That's
not
crazy
part of the
stuff.
narrative. It's not part of the narrative because it happens a lot on Twitter because they're clamping down on conservatives while allowing progressives to run riot. Project Veritas, if you're aware of that, they're whistleblowers for the media. They actually got that videotape of a New York host or anchor saying that they had information on Epstein 3 years beforehand, and they were told to can it. And they showed something about Bernie and the Iowa caucus or whatever it was, and Twitter suspended their account because the big tech media mogul idiots don't want Trump in, and they believe that Trump was put in because of social media and all the Russian bots and everything else like that. And so what they're doing is we're going to have fair and open elections by blocking everyone that's on the right wing on social media because they think that's how it's going to work. The problem is with the Democratic Party acting the way it is, which is basically 48 clowns in the back of a VW. Yeah, I know. The Democrats are going to elect Donald Trump for another 4 years, and it's interesting to see. Like everything's weird. I mean, if Gwyneth Paltrow can sell a candle that smells like her vagina, and it sells out, I can see why people say it's the end times. But Viking, if you're near your microphone, how do you see what's going on, and is it just part of the energy shift, or?
It's definitely a black swan event. You know, it's being orchestrated to create chaos and create a smoke screen, and how it affects the market. It definitely is affecting the fiat end of it. You know, we're already in such a bubble. It's not going to take much to bring this whole thing down. You know, we're so extended out. You know, the bond market's starting to flip again. The stock market is just being propped up by the Federal Reserve and all the central banks just to keep it alive. You know, we're in the end times for sure, but not the end times where it's the end of the world. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's really important to understand that everything has to crash and burn. Everything has to come down in order for there to be, a phoenix rising here into this new interpretation of life. We have to really start to redefine ourselves and how we want to be able to move forward here. And this is just an example. The coronavirus is there to manipulate the masses and to create chaos. And if it becomes a black swan event, then I think it's done a reverse job, because it will, in that case, bring everything to a screeching halt. But one of the main things I want to emphasize with any virus, the way you can guard yourself is by creating an alkaline environment. Viruses cannot exist in an alkaline environment. So, a tablespoon of baking soda 2-3 times a day, turmeric, osha root, all these things can be done. And best to get it now, because if it does get any more full blown, all those are going to sell out. But baking soda can literally alkalize your body and create an immune system. So you don't have to panic here. You have to be just very wise about it. But I think the whole thing is
apple cider vinegar.
Apple cider vinegar is another one.
Yep.
Good. Like you shoot an ounce a day or throw in some water. But anyway, the point being is you just don't buy into it. But it is orchestrated. This is an orchestrated event.
We've got music. I was about to say also, it doesn't mean you just ignore it and allow it to go happen. Be vigilant, be open, be awake, and listen. You're listening to Revolution Radio, so stick around and listen to the next hour of Planet Collingwood. My name's Monty Dean. You're awesome. We'll be back after these short messages. See you on the other side of the break. And we are back because I'm still learning how these things work. And I think it's because for the change the break there, I wait for the mighty Nighthawk to speak, and then I jump in and go, ha, take that. Because I should really look at my clock, but I'm a Time Lord, so yeah, let's just worry about that. You're listening to Revolution Radio. This is Planet Collingwood Open Round Table. If you want to join us, it is Freedom Screen on Skype, or if you're lucky enough to be part of connected to me on Skype, and I don't reject anyone really. I've been burnt many times. Just send me a message and I'll add you, and you can hang out with Viking, the Hijacker, as well as John Z. Where do we want to go now? Because I just feel like making fun of politicians, because it is turning into, it's like a really bad reality TV show at the moment, and I've got the feeling Trump.
Yeah, you said something. You said something important, Monty Dean, about the Democrats basically are going to deliver the presidency to Trump.
Yeah,
which does give us some hope. So here's the story. The story is, first off, this app in Iowa was created by a billionaire who basically backs both Republicans and Democrats. Both of which are Zionist, that he backs, and he is a dual citizen. He's got a company. This company is made up of former military officers that actually Mossad, or what they call Division 88 or 8200. It's the military Mossad Israeli high-tech cyber war type division. Anyways, these guys went private. They set this app up. And so what appears to happen, what have happened, is that Bernie, he was so overwhelming what was happening in Iowa, that what they did is they actually caused a crash in the app as the numbers were coming in. And that's where you got the big delay. And they realized, wait a minute, they had back doors and everything. They go, wait a minute, we can't have this communist Bernie Sanders sweeping the Democratic Party, which I think he's going to do it anyways. I don't think they're going to stop the socialist. I mean, there's too many people just so damn mad at this crony, corrupt type of capitalism, which is really just gives capitalism a completely bad name. Anyways, these socialists, and some of them are communists and don't even know it, with Bernie are going to overwhelm this process. And that's what happened in Iowa last night. And so they did something to the app to shut it down, and then they refixed the numbers so that today they want to say that Buttigieg, he's actually the homosexual, he's married, and he is the actual wife component. So this guy, Pete Buttigieg, he is the female of the group. So, I mean, you know how females are basically treated in the bedroom. So, I mean, got to realize that is the wife. That's not the husband. That's the wife. So Buttigieg ends up winning by 26 point some percent. And then they got Bernie coming at 25.9. They made sure that Buttigieg won. But it does look like, and this is some hope, because if you have the elite at such a high level, billionaires, the ones in the know, if they're actually still playing the political game, then they must know that this thing is going to play out till November, which means we're not going to get a worldwide economic collapse because of this virus. This virus is not going to wipe us out. They know something. That's the reason why they're still in the fight.
Yeah.
Anyways, so what happened? They knocked the numbers down. They caused a mess up, and now that they fixed it. They got the numbers how they want to have them. But what this is really setting up is, especially if we're moving into this new system of app voting, or electronic voting, That means this thing is going to be rigged. Bernie's going to get ripped off again, because think about it. If Bernie, he's a hardcore socialist and a communist. He got the numbers. He got the core of the hardcore left wing of the Democratic Party. But look at the numbers for Elizabeth Warren or Biden or Buttigieg. You know, not even 3/4 of the Democratic Party are on Bernie's side. That means as strong as Bernie's is with his populist, and he's a real communist, by the way. That's why the corporate elite, the corporate fascists actually feel him, really fear him. Is because Bernie will take your $1 billion, which I think they should. I mean, he really will rob. Yeah, but anyways, the point is that because the way the numbers, the Democrats know that if Bernie is the standard bearer of the Democratic Party, the Democrats are going to get wiped out in a landslide. I mean, they're going to lose the House, the Senate, the presidency, everything. And Trump is going to he's going to literally do like a Ronald Reagan. It'll be like a 40 state landslide if Bernie is actually the standard bearer. Go ahead.
And all the SJPC, WMP, all those lovely people, all the letter alphabet people will lose their collective minds because they couldn't handle it 4 years ago. And if Trump wins again, they'll just heads explode. The thing with Bernie, apart from being a socialist communist and all that stuff, he also had a heart attack. And so health-wise, in the back of the mind, the voter may have the thought of, well, could he handle a stressful situation?
No, Monty. He's a true believer, and the people that believe him are true believers. They don't think about heart attacks or whatever. But you know who's thinking about a heart attack right now? Do you know who's thinking about a real nice plane accident? It's Hillary Clinton. Because when Bernie rolls this whole Democratic nomination process up, and his true believers come out and they swamp the rest of the Democratic Party, and when he's the standard bearer and he's flying into Milwaukee, I think it's Milwaukee, Wisconsin or something, where they're going to have their convention, watch what happens. He's either going to have a heart attack or his plane goes down. That opens it up to the Democratic National Committee, Rules Committee. I can't think of what exactly the name is, although I was a Republican delegate, presidential delegate in 1988, and I was part of a Rules Committee. I don't think the national one, but they'll change the rules. They'll say, oh, Bernie went down, he had a heart attack. Now we have to open it up, and they've already actually changed the rules back to where the super delegates, where they changed the rules last year, because Hillary used all this, 2016, because she used all the super delegates to be able to put her over the top. They changed those rules. Now they changed them back. So it looks like Hillary Clinton's getting ready to walk in for a broker convention, and it looks like it's going to be Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. Go ahead.
Could be Bloomberg, but we'll get back to that because we have been joined by someone else. Very quickly, just to get some comedy out there, the way to get rid of Joe Biden is just put him in give him some VR goggles, some virtual reality, and tell him that he won the election to be president, and then just keep him in a room. He'll be distracted. It'll be all good. We've been joined by Harry, fellow Victorian. How are you, Harry? Haven't spoken to you for a while.
No, Happy New Year, everyone.
Yes, Georgian calendar as well as Chinese.
Yes, Ying Tong Hong Yang Nong.
It's the invasion of the Commonwealth.
Rather, what?
Yeah, no, I've just been listening to your show. Very entertaining and very informative. But at the end of the day, it's up to us to take what we want from it and do what we need to do to believe what we're going to get things done. Because the political powers and the way that the world affairs are going, yeah, sure, the white hats are doing their thing, but the whole idea is that, watch the season, watch the times, and strike when the time is right on the things that you need to get done, or keep working towards the things you need to get done, which basically, you talk about socialism and, all that sort of stuff. What if we could, what I've been involved with, I've infiltrated the Anglican Church. And
is that the word you're going to use? Infiltrate? Have you joined or you infiltrated? Like you're going undercover?
Well, no. Well, the world state of affairs, when you look at it, and what's happened in the world and the hierarchy that rule it, there are certain laws. There are principal laws under creation, right? And people who gather together initially or intentionally create a belief system that they're going to live by in a community, extended families and relationships and other people within those communities, et cetera, as we all do. But there are laws that are governed, that are acknowledged through creators. So you've got the gathering who believe in something, and then they create a house of customs where they trade and deliver their methodologies of how they're going to live. And what's happened is for years and years and years, I've been focused on building a village or an enterprise, actually, that incorporates a subdivision where you can have the next gen of declassified military-grade technologies, that energy systems, that will become a redundant or a redundant, providing a level of redundancy in each suburb. So they're put in each suburb. But all the new suburbs I'm suggesting that we build, this is as a prototype, which I've fortunately been revealed to me through the church. After I joined, I didn't know to begin with that they're releasing land, 13 acres around the church to sell off a subdivision and actually build a Christian village with the proceeds of the stuff that they sell off within that subdivision, which includes an enterprise, obviously, to support the minister and the ongoing things of the church. And they've already got enterprises, but I'm looking at it from a more collective point of view, as in everyone only works part-time, and will contribute in a village type scenario, a situation. We grow our own foods. We produce industry out of recycling and that, because that's the next level that we've got to come to. And also, you're protecting the vulnerable. There's going to be like a DV centre there, domestic violence refuge type arrangement, spiritual centre. So it opens it up for all sorts of things.
With the DV centre for both genders?
Yeah. It's just
good. Yeah. I'm just not prickly about it, but it's it's only 10% or less is male victims,
25.
but
25.
That's even worse. But I'm sure you'll agree with my point, is that the government doesn't, or society doesn't care about the male victims. They always push forward the female victims. So I'm glad that domestic violence doesn't have a gender. No,
and this has all come from my experience, and from what's happened to me, and what I basically, you get compressed to a point where you go, okay, it's time to bounce back, and I'm bouncing back in this way.
Have you thought of how to very basic language with the community that you're creating? How do you interface with the outside world? Because obviously you're not going to have 18-foot walls and gates and isolate yourself, but you sort of still have to integrate with, like, kids go to school or council rates, and what I mean.
A nursery centre there, and we're building and a lot of new subdivisions are built under the in Australia. We have two types of acts for development. There's one under the Retirement Village Act, or the Caravan Act, which is temporary buildings. We're going to elect for the Caravan Act because there's a lot of churches building retirement villages, and it also provides us an opportunity to set up infrastructure at the bottom, at the main road, near the main road, for RV, people, tiny house people, and a mechanical workshop there, so that people can come and get all the parts, and if they're heading this way, and spend some time to rest and appreciate the village and the community that we're going to build. But in the meantime, the 3 years before the green site development, I'm meeting lots of people are coming out of the woodwork to help organise this festival that I've been trying to organise after a few people failing on me, walking away from it, and which is about to happen too, attracting like-mindedness, like series in where is it, Preston or wherever it is, which is organic growing and permaculture and all that sort of stuff. So I've met a few people, and we're actually going to meet the minister next week and talk about. One of them actually works for the local council here in recycling waste, and we can get as much free soil from her as possible, as we want. Other people have very high up level, have usurped or have positioned themselves with a edict or whatever it's called. I don't know what it's called actually, that they put to the Commonwealth government, stating we the people, under the jurisdiction given to us by the handing over to the Queen from the Queen in 1973, to dictate to the local, state and federal governments what we're going to do, and they'll have to follow suit. Plus, the other thing which is most important and pressing in Australia here is we've been talking about having a referendum to recognise, the Indigenous nations of these lands. And at the moment, the government's trying to draw up treaties with each of them, keep them all separate. All right. In the thing, they've taken the reconciliation off.
Well, let me just interject, Harry. Here's your problem. Your problem is time. Your problem is because of the rate of the economics of the world, the coronavirus, the politics. That's one problem. The second problem is that whenever you really localize, like international radio, you like kill the audience. So do you have a website? Do you have some place where people, like, there's a lot of Americans that they would love to go to where you're at.
All right.
Do you have a website or anything to where they can find you to basically get out?
As well as just even having a look at the idea and doing it in their own local area.
Yeah. Well, I've got harrythebusker.weebly.com.
You got to say it again. You got to slow down. Nobody's going to get it.
Okay, it's http:// Harry, HARRY, the Busker, BUSKER, .weebly, WEEBLY.com / practical solutions.
Wow, you're going to have to say that one more time. Everybody's got a pen now. Everybody's ready. So go ahead one more time, because that's a long one.
Okay. http:// Harry the Busker .weebly.com / practical solutions. I think it's solutions or solutions. Yeah, it is solutions. You're not solution.
Well, if you make those houses out of hempcrete, I may move there.
Well, straw bale is going to be one of them.
Well, yeah. Well, you've got. Well, I know Hijacker is correct. You time is against you, but on the other side, you've got. Don't build a 18th century farmhouse like they did, because Australia burns. So
no, actually, you'd be surprised. I went to a eco thing years and years, probably 20 odd years ago in Hobart in Tasmania. And they demonstrated, they had a straw bale that they cut in half after they ran 3,000 degree heat over it. and they cut it in half, and they showed that it just singed the outside, and that was it. There was no combustion on the inside because
because it's so compressed. There's no air. Oh, okay, that makes sense as well. Yeah, because my goal is to I don't know where on the planet. Arizona is a starting point. I don't know. I could end up in Queensland. But a hobbit hole type thing, hempcrete dome and dirt over the top, so I can tell people that I mow my roof.
Okay, I've got an adjustment to that link. I'll actually put it in the chat. Yeah. Practical-solutions.html.
So what the big thing is we're talking about now is whether Bernie, a traditional, a classic, true believer, communist. Now he's not. What if you want to know what Bernie Sanders is? Bernie Sanders is not a Stalin. He's not even he's more like Trotsky. He's not even a Lenin. Bernie is a true believer. Trotsky was actually murdered by Stalin. Guess where he was murdered at? He was murdered in a hotel room in Mexico City with a pickaxe.
Wow.
Because Stalin had to get rid of him because Trotsky was a true believer. He was a real communist that actually believed it. And that's what Bernie is, and that's why the establishment is actually scared of him. The Zuckerbergs of the world, they know. The Bezos, they fully know that if Sanders has his way, he will strip them of their wealth and redistribute it. No question about it.
The whole idea with this whole thing is to get the eddy of cash flow local. So we'll be attracting, local distilleries, cheese makers, wineries, organic wineries, arts and crafts, everything you can think of, really, that pertains to the region.
The Zuckerbergs of the world, they know. The Bezos.
Bill, turn off your. Yeah, here we go.
Here we go.
Yes, quickly say hello.
Let's stay the big picture.
Say hello, Bill, and then Harry, continue on.
Hello, Bill.
Thank you. Harry, go ahead.
Hello, Bill.
Hello, Harry.
Oh, I was continuing on, like echo.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, so Bernie, one thing about Bernie, if I can add, he's been on his point, or on point. He hasn't really varied for the decades. He's still so when Hijacker says he's a true believer, you can see through since the 80s and even beforehand, he is a true believer for what he believes in, and yet I don't think it's going to work out well. Go ahead, Harry.
Yeah, well, as far as politicians go and church goes and all that sort of stuff, look, lots of people have said to me recently, why don't you become a priest, because of the stuff I do and whatever. I says, no. I says, I'm me. I'll give you an example. Even before I got married, I organised a land care type of thing down at my local beach, and because blackberries are growing amongst the big, huge gum trees, and behind the sand dunes there, and I wanted to clean it up. So I went to the local council. I was young, so I went to the youth guy, and said, I want to start this project, and he helped me design the flyer and everything. I went around and did all the stuff, knocked on businesses and got donations, organised a big barbecue and a big life beer net thing, and for the launch of it, and coincided it with Clean Up Australia Day. So, and then it became a success. But the point being is, I asked the council if they could, move these logs in for us or stuff like that. We were going to, and provide all these different tools because there was no poisoning. We had to dig them out, so yeah, it's about inclusiveness, and that's part of the model of I'm on the working group for the Glebe Land Development, and also on the parish council now as well, and on the op shop thing.
Right. So here's the problem, Harry, is that the information that you're actually giving, if you were local where you're at in Australia, it would be like really good stuff.
Mm.
But because Revolution Radio is international, we lose people if they can't, if it's not something that's really important, that's big picture, we basically lose people. So that's what we're fighting.
The
Bill
protocol.
Graham, let me jump in here. Bill, explain what I'm talking about here. You know radio. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, you kind of just said it, really. I mean, you don't want to go too off track. I do it, of course. Other times I sum things up too quick. The problem is this. It's very hard to find a middle ground. The reason is twofold. Too little information too direct goes right over people's heads, and it doesn't sound important. It could be too obvious. It's like looking at the same thing every day. It should trigger you, but you see it every day, so it's erased from importance to pay attention to. Or it's just the answer's too easy. You're assuming there's going to be some other trigger to get you to really look at it and think about it. And if you go too far, like I just did, then people tune out. If you get too technical, the ones that already get it, they don't want to hear about the elaborating. They don't care. They'll go to your site. They've already thought it through, and so on. So I kind of just over-explain that myself. It's hard to figure out where the middle ground is.
I get Harry because, by the way, I had the nickname in reform school of Harry. So because I had such long hair. But no, I get Harry. I actually came up with something similar to what he's talking about: family, faith, and farm. And I mean, if I was younger, I would actually join up with Harry, and then I would figure out how to corrupt him, and then get a whole crew together, and then start taking scores and start going after these rich people.
It's happening. That's what we're going to do.
That's for sure.
It's exactly what we're going to do, but it's not going to be a closed community. It's going to be it's going to be open. There's going to be obviously parts of it that are off limits because of the DB stuff and whatever. But those DB people.
How do you think the power structure is going to let you operate, Harry? Think about it.
Hey, Hijacker. Hey, question. Let's say you stole all that money and corrupted Harry and all that stuff. You robbed a bank. What would you do with that money?
Oh, I'd give it away. I'd be like a Christian Robin Hood.
That's exactly what we're going to do too. The other thing.
Well, without the violence and crime.
The other thing is the Anglican Church has its own bank, its own trust, its own government.
Church and do it for the children. I like the cover. That's good. Yeah.
And there's been discussions. I brought a guy in with the treasurer who used to be the ex-attorney general of the Northern Territory, by the way, who's now an artist who lives up in the King Lake in amongst the forest, and he's obviously very across all this stuff, and everyone in the leadership have a matriarchal approach to
right. So Harry, ask your question. Ask this question. I mean, this is a really good question. How many models of the type of model that you're talking about, and it's kind of a commune, faith, family, farm, church type of organic, how many of those models have actually been successful but have not been shut down?
There's about 5 I know in Victoria that we're going to visit. We're going to do a tour over the next year and visit these places.
And they're basically agricultural, right?
Yeah, and community. Like there's Common Ground, it's called.
Right. Well, they'll let an agricultural model go because you're basically raising food.
Yeah, and we're going to have we're going to implement what's it called? Not aquaponics. So introduce the whole life cycle to.
But what I'm saying, whenever somebody develops a model like what you're talking about, or like what I wanted to do 40 years ago, this is basically what happens. Is they don't let you get organized. They come in, they figured out who the key leaders are. or they did what they did in Oregon. I forgot this Swami, this Bhavana Swami. He moved into a county, and then he was able to get all these sort of homeless hippies to get together. And before you know it,
that's Rajneesh.
right? Yeah, but ultimately, once you start to get any kind of political impact or power, that's what the FBI's for. They come. Mongoose comes.
I've been got involved with politics briefly. I got involved with the Labor Party over here, and I've made some good contacts through that, and I also made some interesting contacts. An ex, or I call him ex, but I call him Mr. CIA. I called it straight to his face when I met him. But yeah, he's an American guy who's a migration lawyer, aka handler, and he's got offices in Prague and in New York. And the model that I've suggested with the through the Eco Village, with building a enterprise shared workspace type of arrangement for people that can come in at a low cost rent to try their enterprises out. He's been developing for 5 years, trying to get it off the ground in India. He says, you would not believe all the stuff I've gone through to get it happening, but they've started stuff over there. So the heads up is, and he's talking about next gen energy systems as well, but he's talking about solar, but I'm going way beyond that. I'm pushing for hydrogen and nanotechnology, which is out there already. It's already been developed and invented and applied, which you can see on my website as well. So pieces of it.
So here, let me prophesize over you, Harry. You're a smart guy. You got big ideas. You're young. You got energy. Mongoose is coming. They're going to appropriate you.
Yeah, he warned me that. Mr. CIA warned me of that. He says, look, when it comes to investments, because I was looking, because he's also he's a chairman of Benevolent Trust and all that sort of stuff. So he's got gazillions of dollars to throw at initiatives, and he's always looking for opportunities to invest in. But he did warn me. He did warn me. He said, Harry, you got to be careful. He's very frank, very honest, and we're very, and very open. He says the people who give you the money, they'll stand in the background, they'll watch it, they'll watch you grow it, they'll be supportive, but they'll be quiet, and then they'll come and take it from you. So you got to be careful of stuff like that. So, and that's a very important thing to realise, is that in establishing the Constitution, we're going to bring in, first of all, an Indigenous, I don't know, Monty, have you ever met Brendan Murray?
I know the name.
Yeah,
I haven't met him, but I've somehow picked up on his mailing list or something.
Yeah,
so, yeah, I know the name.
Yeah, well, Brendan is lineage of when Batman from Tasmania, John Batman, came over and was commissioned to look at the waterways and, the forests and start, ways of, cutting them down and getting them, onto ships and stuff like that. He got up to the Murray River and into the Murray River, and he met some of the Wurundjeri elders, and his Brendan Murray's great maybe grandfather was recognised by the tribes as the authority, one of the elders, but like the king of the region. So he comes from that direct lineage.
Right. Well, listen. While I've got both of you Australians online, I've got to ask you this question. But before I do, somebody asked me, who is Mongoose? Mongoose is the FBI. They eat large snakes and monsters, and they devour them, and they put them in their belly, called federal prison. That's who Mongoose is.
Yeah. Okay. The FBI has more leaks than a Polish Navy. Jeez.
Well, anyways, so both of you know who Max Egan is. Mm-hmm. Now, right. Yep. This is a story for the alternative truth community. I mean, we've all seen it. We've all wondered about it. Max came out in this kind of one of these vids. he's since deleted. He goes, the Earth is flat with a dome over it. There's no question about it. I've studied it now for 3 years. I finally have realized I've got my epiphany. And then within a day or so, he backtracks. And then he starts talking about he is the one. And he got a beam of light in his head. And he comes up with this kind of psycho stuff. So
Well,
Max Egan's a big guy in Australia, worldwide. You guys are Australians. What's your assessment of what's going on with Max Egan? Go ahead.
well, from the information you told me, sounds like he's been got to or something.
He was putting out he's putting out a lot of videos on the fires that have been happening. The fire season started a little bit earlier in September instead of late November, early December, which is traditionally summer down here. And he was doing like 5 or 6, and he seemed to be like he was lying in bed and he had a beam of light hit him in the pineal gland sort of area in the top of the brain, and was pumped all this stuff. And so someone tried to get at him, and he spent like 2 weeks trying to recover from it. And the video which Hijacker pointed out, where the flat Earth, and he's deleted it, that was his first video after that experience, which is about 5-6 days after he had this experience, where from his perspective he saw a very square light hit in the middle of his forehead and sort of just give him all this information type thing. It's interesting to see with the correlation of the knowledge he was giving out with the fire videos, which I'm going to sort of do, like, what's going to be one of my first videos for my YouTube channel. Basically, very short, there is a lot of fracking wells here in Australia that is sucking up a lot of water. The government itself, federal government and I think state government, has sold off water to China and international companies. And so the Murray-Darling River system, which is the lifeblood of the country, has basically dried up. You also have geoengineering with the chemtrailing, which is spraying, like those party sparklers, barium, strontium, and aluminium, or aluminum, either.
Right. So Marky, you're in Vinnie Eastwood's camp then of what happened with Max Egan. You're in Vinnie Eastwood's camp that basically the reason why he flipped the flat Earth and the dome and that whole type of narrative is that basically he was gotten to mind control, basically.
Oh, attempted mind control. Yeah, attempted mind control. And also, I've got a sort of a unique thing where, because from my perspective, and I may be wrong, but I'll find out, we live in a placebo universe, and so it's all about belief. And so I come, like, there is a flat Earth. There's also a sphere Earth, but not a perfect sphere. They're hiding something, and so we live in a controlled hologram on a certain thing. So the flat Earth could be the artificial construct that Team Dark's trying to control us with, which is based around the frequency of a round Earth or a sphere. I'm using very basic language. And so from my perspective, at this point in time, I can see how both can actually coexist because of we are such strong beings, and it's our belief system that is creating it.
Okay, so you're in Max Egan's camp. Kind of reality is what you believe. If you believe it's strong enough, then that is your reality. So that's kind of where you're at, right?
About 80% correct, because there's something behind the curtain that's trying to control thing. Viking, can you explain? Am I explaining it the right way, or?
Yeah. This is Viking's wheelhouse. Go ahead, Viking.
So what's the question again specifically?
Basically, like our belief system. There's control. Yeah, control. Well, a belief system creates our reality, and so.
I mean, our entire basis of reality is congruent to programmed prefaces that has been indoctrinated into our culture. So if we believe, enough of us believe something to be true, it will manifest as our reality. Hence, all your dogmatic religions and corporate structures and these just the lineage of hatred and bigotry only exists because people are still tied to that facade, and because they believe it so strongly, it manifests as their reality as a timeline, and these timelines stack up upon one another, creating a reality that encompasses the world. So it is a preface that in order to come to your sovereignty, and that's what Harry's trying to do, is to create a self-mastered community that is basically functioning from their passion and integrating their passion into society in a benevolent way. And I one question for Harry here. Do you know the gentleman Bill Mollison?
Yep.
Yeah, he basically mastered permaculture in Tasmania and Australia. To me, going hydroponics with a water shortage does not sound like a good idea. Where permaculture is based on very little water.
Well, aquaponics is different. I'm gonna get a diviner, or what are they called, on the land, a water finder, and drill. In fact, we're gonna put a mining claim on the land as well and dig into the hill.
You're in Victoria, aren't you?
Yep.
Yeah, so I think there's a separate aquifer which still has water. It hasn't been dried out. That was one thing about the fires as well. The water dried out the land, and you've got the chemtrail and everything else like that. Then you have arsonists all, and of course there is climate change, but not the UN climate change. The magnetic fields and everything else is changing. So it was a perfect firestorm for everything to happen. And of course, instead of actually preparing for it to not happen again, everyone's pointing fingers and arguing.
Yep.
Wow. Burned out. I'm telling you now. Maybe it was the Australians that came up with this coronavirus to beat back the Chinese from burning their property, burning the.
Oh no, there's a lot of space here.
As I announced at an open mic at Musicland in Faulkner, before I sang a song, I says when it first got released there, I says anyone that likes the Corona beer, good luck.
Yeah, I saw that Corona actually re-enabled their beer to Ebola beer, so they're trying to get through it.
That's good.
So, be interested. See, now Australia needs to burn, and I'm not saying that as a psychopath. It's part of the environment because of the native Aboriginals that have been here for tens of thousands of years. They would light fires to corral the megafauna, so they would go hunting and eat. And they've done it so many times that plant life sometimes actually needs to have a fire go through. I'm going to pick numbers between 10 and 15 years, where a fire sort of cleanses thing, and then the plant life in the trees rejuvenate, and it's part of the culture of Mother Nature down here.
If you get the Chinese burning up, if you're getting the Chinese, eating up your aquifers, you need to start thinking in a bigger picture, like Max Egan, that this is a bigger plan, that you guys are like California.
Yes,
you're getting taken down.
It's very similar to California as well, because also with the fires, this is what I'm going to do a video, so I can just share a link. The funding for the firefighters has been dwindling over the last 10 years. And if you look at what happened in Northern California or California and Australia with their wildfires, bushfires, there's a lot of similarities where it comes across as like there's this dark plan of trying to hurt people. Even there's been hints of energy weapons, direct energy weapons here in Australia. There are a couple of photos. I actually shared one in the host chat here on Skype where the photo was there was an orange-red light coming from a cloud into the ground. The thing is about with real direct energy weapons, it's microwave, so you don't see it. There is no beam of light. That's science fiction, Star Wars, Doctor Who type stuff.
Yeah,
Go
seen
ahead.
that. I'm sure you've seen that over in Exeter and WA on that peninsula there. You know, the hexagonal array of antennas.
Our version of HARP. Yeah, we've got a version of HARP, as well as we have too many weather radars. All because they're supposed to about the the diameter of radio, however big it is around about 200 miles, and yet they're all 100 miles apart from each other, so they're overlapping. It's really weird. I've actually shared a photo on Twitter of a weather radar, and all the rain is out to sea just in front of Sydney while it burns all around it. And the cloud cover is a perfect arch all the way around. It looks like the weather radar is keeping the rain clouds out instead of actually just detecting them.
I found out where they finally dumped the uranium waste too.
Yeah.
Because there's been people pushing the federal government out in all sorts of places, including Mildura and that sort of region, but they ended up going into the Northern Territory and just dumping it in lands up there, in sacred lands, in fact, and in special lands, and they of course there's a big campaign on now to get them, stop them from doing it, and it's being advertised on 3CR, which is a local community radio here in Melbourne.
Yep.
Run by the people, and which you can stream as well if you'd like to listen to get updates. If anyone's interested in what's going on in Australia, that's a really good channel.
Yeah, Tune In. The Tune In app has 10,000 radio stations. That's how you can listen to Revolution Radio Studio A and B. If you've got your mobile phone and or cell phone, however you want it, your smartphone, your phone, and you leave the house and you still want to listen to it, you can actually stream it through that app. Which is I've done that a couple of times, which is cool. It's interesting, Hijacker.
Monty. We only got a couple minutes left. I don't know if you're going to carry over, but what's your YouTube? How can people water your garden if they want to support you? Because you got a really good show on Tuesday night on Revolution Radio. So how can people back you up? Where can they get a hold of you? Go ahead.
At the moment, I'm on YouTube. It's Monty Dean. The actual web address is YouTube/Wafer Thin ENT1. ENT stands for entertainment, but it's Wafer ENT1. And at the moment, I'm putting up Planet Collingwood's roundtable up each. It should be up tonight or tomorrow, so you can listen to it. It's been going all year, so this is, I think, show 5 or 6. I've finished my training with my business, and I'll start in the next week or two actually doing a podcast. I've got an idea of doing a show with Viking. I've got to run past Viking, but call it the Earth Report, and the first hour would be sort of like just doing 5 minutes on articles and just go through everything of what's happened in the last week, and then we choose a subject on the second hour and we go in depth. And anyone can join. Obviously, it's not an open round table, so you'll have to tell me beforehand if you want to join.
Right.
That sounds good.
Right. So, real quick, before anyone asks anything else, since I have 2 Australians here, now, I may have misheard earlier, but I just need you to confirm this, Harry.
Mm-hmm.
I am to understand that there was a wildlife expert named Batman, and he was employed by a commissioner. What you said. Is that what you said?
Yes, that's what he said.
John Batman. He was, obviously the first fleet settlement in Tasmania, in fact, which actually settled before Melbourne, Port of Melbourne did.
Uh-huh.
And he was commissioned by the state of Victoria to come over here and do his thing over here in Victoria.
So what you're saying is that there was an actual Batman, and he was employed by a commissioner.
Yeah.
Wow.
Batman Treaty. Yep.
What a legend.
And he created Melbourne City. Not Gotham City, but Melbourne City.
Which you can relate to, because I've got a couple of photos that look like Gotham City I've taken around here.
And there's a lot of bats. So we have about 7 minutes to go. So closing comments. I was just going to quickly mention as well, with the fires, interesting enough, there's an idea of having a very fast high-speed rail train route along the east coast, and a lot of fires were in that area. And some people, there's an idea of keeping people out of those areas because there's always bushfires. So it'd be interesting to see if the Chinese buy that up. And there's a lot of conspiracy sort of going on where, is it population control? They're pushing the climate aspect because they've got the technology to, stop all these things. And yet, anyway. We've got 6 minutes to go now. So, final thoughts, questions, comments? No, apparently. So we're going to have 5 minutes
I'll go.
All right, Viking. Start, Viking. Share your show first.
On a lighter note, 2 weeks ago, I had this overwhelming a feeling and confirmation that humanity has tipped the scale towards the light. So all of this coronavirus and fires and all, the DNC and all the deep state and the dark state, this is their last gasp. You have to understand this is the last gasp, and they're doing what they can to derail our vanguard effort to expose them. So basically, your best strategy is to be aware, as Monty's pointing out, but not get involved. And just keep your passion alive, keep your lifestyle intact, and your passion alive with your actions. And we're gonna make it through this, and nobody's gonna get left behind.
Thank you very much, Harry.
Yeah, that's right. I completely agree with Viking. Just do your things that you love to do. I mean, your arts, your passions, or your accounting, or whatever you love to do. It doesn't really matter. But, continue on, because we're coming into this turn of the seasons where, as Hijacker says, things are going to compound. As Kai call it, the quickening. And we are going to see, if we're not distracted and get strung out by all the fray that's around us, our dreams come true.
Yes, yeah. John is not there. Hijacker.
Yeah, well, I just give my last assessment, so to speak. I do think we got. It does look like President Trump is going to get reelected. Mm-hmm. And then I think shortly after that, even maybe before the new year, I think somehow they're going to get this war with Iran going, and then we're going to get the economic reset. But despite the coronavirus, despite the economics, I do believe that these people seem to have some type of demonic power just to create money to keep this thing going for the next, what are we in February, for the next 10 months or so. So I would just say, get ready, get prepared. If you can find a community like what Harry's doing, join it. If it's close by, if you're able to do it. But yeah, that's all I got to say. And God bless, we are on the precipice of something really, really big. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. John, are you there?
Can I add one more thing?
Yes.
So Sunday was Imbolc, which is across quarters for the pagan calendar. The Gregorian calendar shoved everything up 6 weeks and kind of used that tactic to destroy our celebrations. But Sunday was actually the first day of spring, in the pagan tradition. And it also signifies revelation, resurrection, redivining. This is the time to really start springing ahead and thinking about, your goals and manifestations in its truest form, and not to get caught up in this rhetoric.
Yeah, just observe. John, there you are. Okay, you've got 2 minutes.
Only have one thing to say. Support your local commissioners so they can employ your local Batman.
That's right. And that comes to the end of Planet Collingwood. Planet Collingwood will be arching its orbit around in 6 days and 22 hours. You are listening to Revolution Radio. A big thank you to everyone that was on. John Z, Viking, Hijacker, Harry, and Bill Grant popped in for a second. That was awesome. I haven't spoken to Bill for a long time. Of course, dear listener, you're awesome. So I'm not sure what's coming up next. Could be 2 hours of your moment of Zen, which is quiet, and then Kelsey Sweet with Cultivating Consciousness. Remember, you are listening to Revolution Radio. If you enjoyed the last 2 hours, go to the website and donate what you can. What?
I say, please donate. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, that's what I was saying. I'm wrapping it up. And if you want to hear the show again, or if you missed the start of it, it will be on my YouTube channel, which is just Monty Dean, Wafer Thin ENT1. I love you, but all from afar, let's be fair. And say goodnight, everybody.
Good night.
Everybody, yeah.
Good night, everyone.
If you're wrapping it up, wouldn't you say, "Come and join Revolution Radio"? It's the way, and the way you got to know.
Yeah, I can see why you're not a famous rapper. See you all soon. Mine's a pint.